Good afternoon and welcome to Adventure Park for what is a preview, perhaps, for what's to come in the finals. It's La Familia Avondale against Oakleigh Cannons. I'm Adam Plomby, joined alongside me is Neil Simons. Neil, a fantastic contest we have ahead of ourselves today.
Second versus third, and both with a key eye on South Melbourne's result against Manningham United, and that has been confirmed to be a South Melbourne victory. So, regardless of the result this afternoon, they will sit at least 8 points off the league leaders. Of course, prior to this match, both sides on 43 points. And, well, they've had a pretty recent meeting, but not in the NPL Victoria, Adam. You can tell us more about that.
In terms of Avondale and Oakleigh having a recent meeting?
Yes, Doherty Cup, my friend, a few weeks ago.
Doherty Cup. I am more renowned with Avondale in their last NPL League match, that of against the Altona Magic at Paisley Park last week, where their captain Christian Rossi had denied Blake Carpenter from the spot to salvage a point for La Familia, so they're looking to rebound on this occasion. Neil, you might be able to tell us a bit more about
the Doherty Cup match.
These two sides today and the recent encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Oakleigh Cannons with a 2-1 victory last week over the Port Melbourne Sharks. A double from Stefan Valentini. It's good to see him back in some form against his former side today in Avondale, so a massive match, an occasion for him. But more pertinently, it was a cup match at the home of the Matildas a few weeks ago. And, well, it was a shocking 3-1 win for Oakleigh. They completely dominated Avondale throughout the 90 minutes, and that was a really interesting thing to observe and to be across. But earlier this season, of course, they met in the Charity Shield. Actually, it was a 2-1 win for Avondale at Jack Edwards. Goals from Yusuf Ahmed, Stefan Zini, and Alex Salmon. Two of those names do not feature. We'll go through the starting lineups right now. Starting off with the away side, the Oakleigh Cannons. Number 1, Nick Feely. Number 4, Brody Boyce. Number 2, Jordan Hall. Number 8, Cameron McGill. Number 10, Joe Guest. Number 14, Kingsley Sinclair. Number 19, Oliver Kubalay. Number 22, Stefan Valentini. Number 23, Emmeline Wellsmore. And number 47, Asad Kasumovic. No Alex Salmon. He's still recovering from an injury. And Adam, I believe you can take us through Avondale's starting lineup featuring Matthew Reid, who hasn't featured since the 11th of March, not this year, last year. Has not featured in an NPL men's senior fixture. Has played a bit of the 23s competition this season, but a massive welcome addition for them.
He's got the armband on today as well, Mr. Reid, so very encouraged to see his performance. As for La Familia, George Ott was nearly found out by Stefan Zini. There might be an early chance for Kerr. The flag's gone up. Right as we're about to announce their starting lineup. It's been much of the tale this season in 2024, with quick goals occurring across both competitions respectively. Courtesy of that offside, we can bring you La Familia's starting lineup. In goal is Thomas Manos. A defensive change with the return of Aidan Bryce, who's back in his natural centre-back position. Blake Carpenter now pushed out to the right. Full-back position, Edwards in the left. Also in that defensive partnership was the captain. And Mr. Reid, as we look towards the midfield, Chiang Kyoba, Trachevsky, and dare I say, George Mells. All in the engine room in attack with Stefan Zini, George Ott, and our player of the month, Kerr.
Yeah. Got a lot to prove, Kerr. In recent weeks, hasn't exactly been on song, but I'm sure he'll be very keen to keep a few attackers out of the starting lineup. Of course, players are returning. We saw Joey Katabian return. He's more of a midfielder, though, but obviously Yusuf Ahmed's going to come back. Senior, of course. So, yeah, he's got a big point to prove today.
Well, if you touch on Kerr's performance from last week, he had a few golden opportunities to score for Avondale. His forward craft has been decent, just lacking that finishing touch right where it matters. But to be awarded Player of the Month, he must be doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a player with such immense quality. I mean, with European experience at FK Novi Pazar in 2022, dare I say, would say that he would like to get back to that point and in a I guess the highest level he's really played at in the NPL Victoria. Obviously had a stint at the Brisbane Roar last year in the NPL system. So when he's on son, he's the best attacker in the league for sure. Mells looking towards Georgia, who's dispossessed, and McGilp looking to weave his way through possession. There's Mells once again with the errant touch, and see a throw in for the Cannons. Here's Emily Wellsmore. It's a very much Port Melbourne Sharks flavour on the park today. Wellsmore, Mells, Courtney Perkins and Dan Edwards, all previous players of the Port Melbourne Sharks. They did actually play together in the 2021 and 2022 season. Here is Guest. Going to slide through the ball, but first timely interception for Matthew Reid, who's come back from a long injury. He's a huge in for them.
Off to a decent start. His pass might be a bit too cooked for Carpenter to get onto. Now it's Oakleigh who want to venture forward, and Astro Sakalis, the man in charge today, with his first whistle, indicating a foul, which will allow Oakleigh to have a genuine attempt on Thomas Marnos' goal. The range might be as ideal as it gets for a free kick taker to manufacture the dip over the wall. So there might be an early warning sign fired towards Marnos.
And well, who else but Joe Guest to stand over this one. He's got tall timber at the back post, but decides to go low. And is blocked away.
And Avondale have their fair share of free kick and special moments from those free kicks with their set-piece takers. Sean Cuba has provided a few throughout the season. Kerr also from the spot was actually against Hume a few rounds ago in their 5-0 demolition job, where Kerr had scored from the spot to make it 2-0 on the cusp of half-time.
Jacob Tratt weaving his way through the defence. It's really interesting to see someone like him, I think, gaining confidence at this level, obviously dropping down from the A-League. It's not easy. Made 24 appearances in the A-League for Western United across the last 2 seasons, and him and Jordan Hall will obviously provide a very formidable centre-back pairing, and well, they haven't exactly kept a clean sheet yet together, but 2 wins in 2 games for them, so positive signs to say the very least.
Boyce searching pass forward. Valentini trying to get the better of Edwards. Zini might have impeded. Astro Sakalis saw nothing unfruitful in that. Now Stefan Zini wants to venture in that open space on the left. He attempted to try cut in beyond Kubale, but Nick Feely in goal will be happy to just see the move fizzle out for the meantime, as the Cannons will look to just assert themselves in possession. Last week, Neil, the Cannons in their recent match, how do they fare?
Yeah, very well. I mean, it was a very big contentious penalty call, and that was obviously given to the away side, but they made easy work of the Port Melbourne Sharks. Of course, conceded a free kick late, but yeah, of course, Chris Taylor should be very happy with the side's recovery in recent weeks following that dismal patch of form. I mean, losing to the likes of Dandenong City at home, and then the Dandenong Thunder a few weeks later. It was pretty crazy to see. But I think with a very heavy run of fixtures coming up, the Oakleigh Cannons have got a lot to prove, especially with that match against FC Melbourne Serbia midweek in the Doherty Cup semi-finals for them. Bryce towards Matthew Reid. Oh, maybe a bit of a lack of match sharpness from Matthew Reid. Just not exactly
still got the cobwebs on his feet, maybe.
Perhaps. We'll see Cannons recoup possession here as Carpenter looking to weave his way through, and Kasumovic goes to ground. Nothing doing. Mells, of course, has kept out Yitte Towns out of the starting lineup. That's a huge selection change from Zoran Markovski. Of course, Mells was missing last week due to injury, but looks to be playing a bit deeper in Yitte Towns' role.
He's also captain last week, Yitte Towns. It is rather the bold option from the manager to take who was the captain right at the equation, as Oss collides very heavily. Sakalis keeps the play moving. You could hear the collision all the way up on our commentary gantry. Valentini and both attackers competing for the ball in the heart of the midfield. As Ott flicks on, Edwards trying to get underneath it. Valentini just that touch taller. It's just become a game of headers at the moment. It's not been put on the deck. Bryce opted to go backwards, and that presence you feel was sorely missed last week for Avondale. As Kerr trying to go inside. He tried to step beyond the fullback, and he's earned a corner, much to the disgust of the Cannons' defence.
Looks like Blake Carpenter's get a stand over this one. Usually Sion Cuba would be on corners, but interesting change for them. Obviously, they do have a natural right back in Jackson Courtney Perkins available, but he's on the bench. So they've decided to play two left-footed players on the respective wing-back positions. Here is Carpenter with the delivery to the near post. It's George Ott. They will have a second bite of the cherry.
It was at Paisley Park last week where they had an abundance of corners. La Familia. They didn't seem to really threaten the keeper of Christian Rossi upon each of those deliveries, with changes of style from Chian Cuba throughout the night on his set-piece routine, as that corner's rather tame on this occasion. Cuba thought he'd try volley something back in towards that mixing area, as Avondale forced a play out with George Mells. Oakleigh back in possession. But we touch on it, Neil, their corner ability for La Familia. Have to rehash last week. It's rather strange. You saw Cuba swing it in, then loft it, approached it in many different forms, but was not able to cause any threat. And they had so many chances to really do so. So you might see how the onus changes today, as it really propped up there for the young Drajewski. He hadn't caught that well and truly at all.
No, and I think he's someone that's trying to edge his way back into form. Of course, come back from an ankle break. That is some recovery.
Might have been his leg. Was it a leg or was his ankle?
I believe it was his ankle, yeah. I believe it was his ankle. And that was a very, very difficult process to go through for him. Obviously, he's back now and he's ready to re-engage and be a more consistent contributing member of this Avondale squad. But yeah, I think it's about gaining that sharpness back. In my opinion, one of the best dribblers in the competition. So
it's on display there to spin out of traffic.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's Avondale's injury woes has been sort of well established this season, as we do see the centre back pairing, which we haven't seen in such a long time. Mells towards Reed. Here is Blake Carpenter. Flat back three in possession briefly for the Avengers. Edwards, a new arrival from the Port Melbourne Sharks. Zinni. Avondale forced incredibly deep at the moment. Reed with an attempted line-splitting pass. A good touch from Ott. Drajewski now towards Kerr on that right flank, looking to drive inside, but excellent work from Wells more briefly, but Kerr still holds possession. Carpenter looks in field, and an easy claim for Nick Feely, but Sion Cuba with a late arrival and a yellow card. And that, in fact, is his 5th yellow card of the season, and he'll be missing next week, it looks like. Certainly avoidable, Adam. I'm not sure about you, but
although they sat deep there, Neil, La Familia looked extremely comfortable in possession. You must give credit to that centre-back partnership you mentioned. Aidan Bryce just conducting, keeping the tempo of the game the way they needed it to be. That nice Ott pass to Drajewski, which opened things up to find Kerr in that wide area. It was from the training ground. It's real textbook Zoran Markovsky play. Yes, well, the culmination of it, they might be without Chian Cuba following that 5th card he just incurred this season. The rather instrumental player for Avondale.
Yeah, and yeah, that is a big, big loss. I mean, next week, it's a crucial, every match for Avondale is crucial at this point in time, and then on Thunder at home is another opportunity for them to really make ends meet. And also, it's a big match for, you'd say, Christian Trzeski obviously suffered an injury against Down on Thunder, will likely have a bigger role as well. Reed into feet is Mells. Oakleigh pressing with much intent. Of course, without really an out-and-out number 9 this afternoon. Bryce towards Carpenter. Aiden Bryce. Avondale very comfortable and composed in possession, but they briefly give it away. The Oakleigh press is certainly providing a lot of trouble, and, well, they're happy to expend fitness, even though they've got a cup game on Tuesday. Cuba forced very deep.
Avondale controlling the tempo. Neil, they look extremely comfortable, as you mentioned. There's that line-breaking opportunity, which George Ott has come deep to try find. It's pass a bit too cooked for Mells, so Carpenter wants to find Bryce, who wanted to find Zini, but Boyce was able to get in possession. Feely sends long, hoping to find a teammate. Edwards up and high. Zini's made some ground up to get there. Fine touch from Zini, who draws the foul. We'll touch on the new signing, one of them at least for Avondale, out of Edwards in that fullback position. He played a more midfielder role at the Port Melbourne Sharks under Nick Marinos, but he looks at home, doesn't he? He looks so just content with the way Avondale play. He really controls their tempo. Although last week was a losing debut for him, he showcased that what he can provide to Avondale is what they require. As Kerr has an overlap with Carpenter, which acknowledges. Carpenter towards the edge of the box. Ott and Trzeski combining nicely. Yet again, that final touch, just the issue for Avondale.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Edwards was largely inverted as a fullback for Port Melbourne to start off the season under Nick Marinos, and I'd say has definitely had his best campaign in Sharks colours, and deserves this move alongside Jackson Courtney-Perkins, who can really play anywhere. Can play as a right wing back, can play as a number 10, even a striker, and has a knack for scoring goals. So he's definitely a great bench option to utilise. The Sharks completely decimated in that mid-season window. A lot of players departing, so I'm sure for them, both Courtney Perkins and Edwards, they've got a huge point to prove. It's a sumptuous ball towards that right flank, but all too easy for Manos. And for Stefan Valentini, one of the most, dare say, players, I'd like to say he's very, very annoying to contend with. Coming to his older stomping ground at the Calabria club, it'd be a massive opportunity for him to potentially get one against his old side.
Well, so far, Oakleigh have to try find a way through what appears to be an unfazed Avondale defence. Look like they've set up shop and without their talisman of Salmon. It's going to be rather the question around where their source of goals will come from this afternoon. Valentini might be that most viable option. As you can see, Chris Towers' men just trying to catapult their way forward. Avondale defending rather deep as Guest couldn't get a flick he required. Avondale will have possession back with Kerr. He wants to move it quickly on to Ott. Ott's touch a bit heavy. Spin from McGlip. Initially got him away. Thomas Manos in goal will use a full length of his box and claim. Throughout the last couple of months in Victoria, we've been hosting our fair amount of football events. You mentioned the Doherty Cup, the Australia Cup coming up. We had the National Youth Championships at the home of the Matildas just a week or so ago, and there's quite the football feel around Victoria, which we're always welcoming to see. Is there anything within those months, Neil, we've seen, or you've seen rather, that you've appreciated greatly?
Football as a sport you have to appreciate, Adam, but in all seriousness, I think Yeah, the National News Championships last week was impeccable. Obviously, I didn't get down to it, unfortunately, but obviously it was a great occasion for everyone involved in the country, and obviously we have the boys starting very, very soon as well. The Australia Cup, a lot of home ties in those first few weeks. Obviously with Heidelberg taking on the Mariners, South Melbourne taking on Wellington, and also FC Melbourne Serbia taking on the Modbury Jets. So it's very, very exciting to be a football fan of Victoria, and obviously with the national second tier kicking off next year, it's going to be exhilarating, to say the very least. So, but I guess for the NPL final series, it's going to be great.
More NPL base in the men's competition. There was a moment which Bryce Ruthen had covered to perfection. It was incredible seeing the goalkeeper score to equalise, I believe.
Yeah, Piers Clark.
His first goal of the season. First goal in Dandy colours.
Allison, eat your heart out.
That was brilliant, watching that back.
It was.
It sort of encapsulates the season we're having this year across the competition. Many wonder moments, many goals, even in the Victorian Premier League. Rather close at the top end of the table, with Victory leading the way. Preston Lions and Northcote just in their wake as this contest, these two combatants still haven't really thrown a counter punch to each other yet. As Strachevski does well to avert that pass away from Valentini. As Reid trying to find some more comfort. You see, just wants to be a bit more assertive in possession. Gave away the loose ball or two in the opening knockings of the contest. But now Edwards. Thought about strolling away from his marker of Kuzimovic. That's much of the onus of the game so far, Neil. Just the home side really content with absorbing that Oakleigh press and just waiting for that killer moment, which can come from this man, Mels, Strachevski. That's much of the onus on Zoran Markovski. So much patience. They're in no rush at all.
Yeah, they're really starting to move up higher. Did you see Mels now receiving board? Back towards Reid. Mels with a searching ball towards Zinni, slightly overhit, and looks like go out for a throw-in. Avondale just looking for that killer blow to kick off proceedings this afternoon. It hasn't been a great few weeks for them. Obviously that 1-1 draw with Heidelberg. Stunning turn of events, of course. Sian Cuba scoring late, and then Sabit and Gore getting that stoppage time equalizer. Lost last week to the Altona Magic did not make things any easier. Mels. Neat pass towards Kerr, and a good save from Nick Feely. It was not exactly the hardest of balls to catch. A neat touch from South Sudanese international.
It's rather central, his effort. Never really bothering the keeper of Nick Feely, who didn't really have to move to have it in his grasp.
Here is Jacob Tratt. Wellsmore towards Kubele. Now Boyce. Kubele just on halfway. Going to drive. McGill. Boyce. McGill with the incisive pass towards Boyce, who will send one into the mixer. And it's Asad Kasimovic who goes to ground, but it's batted away by the Avengers. Kept in play, however, by Wellsmore. A bit of miscommunication there as neither George Ott or Sian Cuba could receive. Now it's Stefan Valentini, gets a cross away from the byline, but it's well dealt with by Aidan Bryce, and here is Sian Cuba. He cheaply gives it away, but it will be Avondale ball.
Again, Avondale looks so comfortable with Bryce. Bryce rather back in the team, commanding that space inside his defensive area as Edwards looks for Zinni over the top. You can see the defender and goalkeeper for Oakleigh just sort out the situation without any real qualms about it, as Carpenter Trying to find Trajevski. They look towards Astros Sakalis. Says that's a foul.
Might give you a score update, Adam. In that relegation battle, of course, it's Moreland City, Manningham United amongst St Albans and whatnot. And there's a relegation 6-pointer this afternoon to feast your eyes on, with Moreland City taking on Manningham United. That's currently 1-1 with Moreland City taking the lead early and Manningham now equalising.
Keep an eye on that one, Neil, as the game goes on. But meanwhile here at Avenger Park, Chian Cuba and Blake Carpenter look to cause some issues for the Cannons. As Cuba's delivery towards the back post, he's really made Bice try earn that lofted cross, which wouldn't matter if he got there. Bryce was offside.
Yeah, that's quite out of character for Chian Cuba to make a meal of it on that occasion, but yeah, Oakleigh have got a lot of counter-pressing to do, and they've not had a lot of the ball in possession, but be keen to see how Brody Boyce fares as a right-back. Of course, Emily Wellsmore traditionally plays in that position, and obviously you've got the likes of Kingsley Sinclair available too, so...
Cuba onto Watt. Glances towards Kerr. Fronted by Wellsmore. Kerr trying to go around his marker. Well defended. No foul. Well, as much as Kerr was looking for it. Kubalay was clean. Strutting to get to the pass. Was Boyce. Was well cut off by Reed. Long searching ball towards Zini. Boyce underneath it. Now Valentini. Zini tried to slide in tackle, which Valentini's broken through. He nearly got beyond Bryce, which would have allowed for that shot to occur. Valentini once more, flicking out wide towards Boyce. He'll cross towards the box. Oakleigh keeping the ball within their attacking half. They've got intent. Guests. They've really manufactured the cross intended. Edwards was happy to clear. With Osh trying to keep it alive. Astros Sakalis in the position required to acknowledge the ball had gone out of play.
Interesting to note how Edwards was trying to combine with George Ott there. We have 3 Kiwis on the pitch right now. Edwards, of course, starting off his career in New Zealand. Played the likes of Birkenhead as a youngster, and then obviously made the move to the US. His college years for the Thundering Herd. Kingsley Sinclair, of course, also has played straight overseas in the lower tiers of Germany. Valentini. Looking at bypass Zini. Those two men were sort of two in tandem. If you really do speak of that Avondale 2021 side, it was all about Zini and Valentini. The 1-2 punch, left and right wings. And now on opposing sides of the pitch. Here is Kubalay. Here's Valentini. Looking to go to work, but wins the corner for the Cannons.
You see George Ott just strutting back to commit to some defensive duties. As the lumber for Oakleigh just make the slow journey towards the box. See Jordan Hall. Next to him was Jacob Tratt. They've got rather the height about them, so I'm sure that's what Sinclair will be looking for.
Here is Sinclair.
He delivers a fine ball towards that area. And catching on the fly, they were Oakleigh. It remains in the box. They look towards Astros Sakalis, who points to the spot. Penalty awarded for the Cannons. The protests are heavy. They can see Bryce and Mells having a chat with the assistant on the far side. But Sakalis awards the Cannons a penalty, still clutching at his leg. Dare I say is Kuzamovic, who's back up on his feet now, but he was caught late, Neil.
That is a very contentious decision. Not judging the call itself, but the way in which he took his time to award it. I mean, his whistle was in his mouth, and then he stopped briefly but waited to see the phase of play. I'm surprised that it wasn't called straight away. And I'm very intrigued as to see what the intent was behind that specifically. I mean, the call itself, we'll look at the replay before we make an assessment, but yeah, that was a very intriguing penalty call, but it looks like everyone's calmed down. So, yeah, it was quite late, but nonetheless, I think the right decision.
So Joe Guest with the responsibility from the spot. 9 goals for the season. He looked to dispatch beyond Thomas Manos. It's quite the shot stopper in his own right. He'll be awarded a yellow card. Perhaps protesting the ball wasn't on the penalty spot. So Cars has been busy. But the Cannons have a chance. It's Joe Guest from the spot who dispatches rather emphatically. And it's the Oakleigh Cannons who take the lead at Avenger Park. The game hadn't exactly come to life until that moment, which the away side seized with both hands.
Yeah, looking at that foul again, it looks like Blake Carpenter does clip the leg or the ankle of Sad Kasimovic. Hence a foul call. But yeah, Oakleigh have had to fight under a lot of pressure, but they've still maintained that attacking intent, and they take a 1-0 lead at the 30th minute mark, but only a third of the match completed. There's plenty of time for the Avengers to curl their way back.
We've got to call it, Neil. It's 10 for the number 10. Not many times you can say that.
No, not at all.
So Joe Guest hitting double digits. As on our scoreboard, it means 1-0 to the Cannons. Not exactly deserving of it, though, La Familia. They were in control of possession. They were controlling the tempo of the game. And the visitors looked to just have some more intent heading forward, which has paid off as Bryce searches long for Kerr, who might get to the end of that pass. He kept Wells more honest. Will be a corner for La Familia. They look to respond quickly.
They do take it quickly. And here is Carpenter. Searching delivery to the near post. Jordan Hall makes easy work of it. And the best way for Avondale to respond is quickly and early. Here is Cuba. Looking to weave away and get across away. He can't do so. Here is Kingsley Sinclair. Driving into midfield. Looking all the way towards Valentini. That ball will overhit slightly. Edwards will now pick up.
Sakars has been very busy. Yellow cards are plenty in this contest. Valentini might have just gone in the book there for, well, what's looking to be rather the individual. We got there eventually. Individual battle between Valentini and Edwards on that left flank. Both been getting in each other's way early on. As Bryce, Krzyzewski, Mells wants to open space up for Kerr. They're fairly happy to clear. Lofting, Kuzimovic try to get up and just get a header on towards a teammate. Avondale awarded the throw, which Carpenter is happy to recycle back towards his captain. Now Bryce. Mells lofting towards Ott. Off his chest in a compact space. Cuba gets it back from Mells. Cuba wants to find Kerr on 2 occasions. Fine defending. You can just see the real intent on display from Cam McGlip, who, well, in that play was 3 tackles he laid, and via the ricochet earned possession for Oakleigh with a throw.
I'm sure that penalty shout will be talked about after this game, pending the result. I think, yeah, contentious decision. I'm leaning towards the side of yes, but you can make the argument that Kasimovic goes down really early. So, yeah, certainly something to ponder, Adam. But Yeah, Avondale with good combination play in that attacking third. But they just need to find that opening. But you struggle to do that when you have two of the best defenders in the league as a centre-back pairing with Jordan Hall and, of course, Jacob Tratt. So we do see Cuba in transition now. Looking towards Trzeski. It's got Edwards overlapping. Trzeski weaves his way through. Pass one, pass two, and looks to let one fly from range, and it's easy for Nick Feely, but that was a very nice dribbling action from Christian Trzeski. Avondale win back once more. Ott. Kasimovic. Cuba. Mells. Aiden Bryce. Zinni.
As much of what Avondale were doing beforehand in this contest, just trying to dictate the tempo, but as it stands, Oakleigh have understood the assignment. As Carpenter steps towards an incisive option, which wasn't the right one on that occasion. Just touching back on Christian Trzeski. That's what we like to see from midfielders within any form of football. Just taking the game on. He's caught on possession there, however. Commentators curse to full effect, which allows for Oakleigh to venture forward. Kerr is going to commit the foul, which McGlip will be awarded. Right, as you mentioned, the midfielder liking to take the game on. He stumbles on his own feet. That's the most timely thing to occur, I think, in this contest today. As Boyce, confronted by Zinni, who's backtracking. Hall. Boyce was the intended target, which Edwards, upon the clearance, falls on his own feet. So the turf at Avenger Park having its little, well, aspect upon the contest. The sun beaming right upon it. As Guest uses his body to keep it away from his counterpart, number 10 of Mells. Ball trickling all the way back to Marnus's goal.
Yeah. Here is Matthew Reid. Pass accepted. Oakleigh still maintaining that press. The intensity will always be there for Chris Taylor's men as Mells looks to find an option. Does so in the form of Aiden Bryce. After the 1-2 touch. Here's Carpenter towards Cuba. Aiden Bryce looks to unleash a long ball towards that left flank. Boyce will head it into the path of their custodian in goal, and Nick Feely. Now a consistent contributor, of course, the former Perth Glory goalkeeper. His father also a great player in his time. On the books of Chelsea at one point. You see Dan Edwards once more. Pass misdirected. Kubalay. Avondale will regain possession.
Bit of winter sun in their eyes, Neil.
Yeah. Quite the contrast from what we've seen in weeks prior. Fantastic, immaculate conditions for football. Not too hot, not too cold.
You wonder when Oakleigh venture forward if they might have that interfere with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's certainly having its presence upon the contest. It's see some players out there. Edwards currently with his hand just over his eyes. As Oakleigh seem to have their eyes firmly on the contest so far. Blake Carpenter was impaired. He'll have a foul, which will take quickly with Mells. So as much as Avondale are starting to try open up on their flanks, you can see the overlapping run from Edwards has been more frequent, as it has from Bryce on his opposite side. But Oakleigh committing to that defensive shape. Edwards. Back to Bryce. Mells has a glance. She finds Reid. Wants to push up. Carpenter. Kerr. Might have had a glance on what's occurring around the grounds, Neil.
Yeah, so Manningham United have taken a 2-1 lead over Moreland City, if I'm not mistaken. If Football 24 is correct, of course. So that's a big, big opportunity for Manningham to steer clear of that relegation battle.
It's gotten interesting at the bottom end of the table, given the arrival of Lee Broxham at St Albans. But meanwhile here, Guest looks towards Kuzimovic. Keep it alive. And he'll cross towards the near post, in which Manos, for a brief moment there, might have been a bit uncertain. But I'm sure he would have been relieved to hear his goal net ripple, given the ball hadn't gone beyond his goal line.
Here is Mells. Towards Carpenter. It's not often what you see Oakleigh without the ball, and I guess this counter-pressing nature has proved very fruitful for them. But Avondale, who know they are controlling the tempo, have to really pierce the gaps wherever they might, as Mells with the first touch towards Ott. Neat turn. Here's George Ott. Last touch did come off the Kiwi, so it will be an Oakleigh goal kick. There's action tonight as well in the NPL Victoria. It never stops whatsoever. It's a big one with the Port Melbourne Sharks taking on the Dandenong Thunder. And also a bit of Sunday special. St Albans against the Altona Magic. And of course midweek we have the two Doherty Cup semi-finals. Oakleigh taking on FC Melbourne Serbia. VPL 2 FC Melbourne Serbia, that is right. South Melbourne against Hume City. And the Cannons themselves got a fantastic and engaging Australia Cup fixture against Sydney FC, which should be very intriguing. We know what happened 2 years ago, Adam. I mean, they did defeat them, so anything could happen this time around, I reckon.
The magic of the Cup. And what will be full effect, there's a few Cup competitions occurring at the moment. The Night Cup, also throughout the week. The Women's Victorian Football Cup. Bundoora were defeated by the Preston Lions at the home of the Matildas. They've punched their tickets to that final, and they'll await the result of, dare I say, Bulleen and an opponent I'll need to have a check up on. As Cuba looks towards Edwards, he'll send forward towards Ott. Pass was fine. And the Kiwi trying to really make something of it. Fine shepherd, you could say, from Jordan Hall to keep the mobile and rather quick for his size George Ott at bay. As Reed sits underneath that long clearance from the keeper. Krzyzewski making Bryce just earn the ball back. As we approach half time, Neil, you wonder what Chris Taylor might be thinking, but more an onus on Zoran Markovski, given his side are trailing at home. So they're required to turn it around.
I think Avondale have the resources to do so, but it's a matter of how they do it. And they've got plenty of attacking outlets to utilise, but they're really struggling with this Oakleigh press at times. I say at times because sometimes they do succeed very well. There's Kubale and Sinclair combining briefly.
Under the pump again there, weren't they?
Sits kindly for Mells. Ott. Good first touch. Krzyzewski. Oh, loses out possession from Joe Guest. The two most technically gifted players, you'd say, in the league for that number 10 position. Here is Stefan Zini looking to go to work on Brody Boyce. Zini beating past 1 and 2, but Valentini stepping in on his former teammate. And he's riding the challenges. Is the Western Australian Stefan Valentini, and Krzyzewski with a foot in and forces the throw in. He looks to be near back to his best. Christian Krzyzewski needs a goal contribution, you'd say. He, of course, did score on his return. And looks like Valentini, and I think that's Jordan Hall, in a bit of trouble here, but I think Jordan Hall was just a shoelaces issue. In fact, it actually was Oliver Kubale. And Valentini is going to get back up on his feet. And Brody boys having a few chats with the supporters here. Could be friends, could be opposing fans, you never know. Krzyzewski calls for a handball against Brody Boyce. Waved. Oh, that was needless from Matthew Reid. Extremely needless, trying to get the ball back. And Kasumovic was is now getting in the face of George Mells here as well. Looks like no card will be awarded, but what did you make of that? I'm not sure if you saw it. It was off the ball.
Yeah, now Valentini and George Mells is exchanging pleasantries, I would assume, but it was a bit needless from the captain upon his return, but it's added that layer to the game in which it felt like it was coming. La Familia certainly getting rather disgruntled, and it was simmering given how Oakleigh have approached the game. So far, it's the visitors that have Avondale where they want them. So we're only 1 minute away from stoppage time in this first half. Could always be late drama. It was at Avenger Park against Hume those rounds ago. It was upon that match, Christian Krzyzewski had scored on his return. With 2 minutes to be the signal to go up from the fourth official. You talk about late drama, it was Kerr's penalty, which was converted from the spot. Following that penalty, it was Hume City's keeper, Weir, who had been sent off, given he was kicking the ball towards the celebrating Avondale players. So there could still be that late grasp for drama, as Sakas initially allowed for play to continue before calling it back.
2 minutes about a time as well, Adam, as we do see Avondale look to make one last attack in this first half. Plenty to ponder at half-time, regardless of outcome in these remaining 2 minutes. I'm sure Chris Taylor and his coaching staff will be very, very happy with the first half performance as Ott looks to flick it on. Perhaps they just need more pace to beat the lines. I mean, George Ott isn't quite that player that gets in behind, but perhaps bringing on Jackson Courtney Perkins at striker could be the main method of intent. Maybe moving Kerr more centrally, who knows, but I'm no tactician. As Edwards will see it out for a goal kick. Tom Manos hasn't had much to do today either, aside from that penalty.
He guessed the right way.
Yeah, that definitely did. Another day
towards the right direction.
Yeah, penalties has been a very, very big discussion in the footballing world recently, of course, with so many of those in both Euros and Copa America. Huge psychological game. Krzyzewski towards Reid. Here's Carpenter. Touched slightly away from his body. Reid once more. It looks fairly comfortable. It was a very heavy touch from Blake Carpenter, but he does win back the ball. Guest. Lateral pass towards Kasumovic. And here is Valentini. Can he beat past Dan Edwards? It's Valentini, and Edwards does brilliantly. Zini was clipped initially. And now Cuba. Asteros Akalis looks at his watch, but allows play to continue.
No, he doesn't.
Briefly, he did, but here at half-time at the Calabria Club, the Oakleigh Cannons take a 1-0 lead through a Joe Guest penalty. Avondale, despite controlling much of the possession, will go into the sheds 1-0 down. Adam, your thoughts on that first half?
Well, the Avengers, although looking comfortable in possession, Oakleigh had pounced upon their opportunity. Joe Guest found his 10th of the season from the spot. Manos had dived the right way, but all the work to do for the hosts. You expect a prompt response from Zoran Markovski upon the second half. The visitors, well, they might just hold on if that response doesn't come in a timely manner.
Absolutely. They sit in second at the moment, and this is very intriguing. Avondale have scored 9 out of 10 times first in their last 10 fixtures. This a very different complexion to what we've seen. We'll be back for the second half in about 15 minutes or so.
Nearly back underway for the second half at Avenger Park. Oakleigh, halfway through that first half, found the lead, courtesy of Joe Guest from the spot. It's all to play for now for La Familia. They have to basically come out of the tunnel firing. Neil Simons, Adam Palombi on the call. Neil, it's all to do for the hosts.
Yeah, I mean, looking at them defensively, they were pretty solid up until that penalty call, which, contentious for many, justified for some. However, I think attacking-wise, their output has to improve. Especially the likes of, you'd have to say, definitely Stefan Zini, Kerr haven't been afforded much space in transition. So that has to be the key for them. Obviously, Avondale are a very much possession-orientated side, but you do see Xian Cuba in behind here on this right flank. And a monstrous challenge from Emlyn Wellsmore. And it looks like he'll be given a yellow card for his indiscretion on that occasion. Both himself and Xian Cuba now in the book. Looked like he won ball first, but might have clipped the ankle or something of that sort.
That's exactly what they needed to do in the second half, Neil. They've come out the tunnel firing, got a free kick in a promising position. As we look around the Calabria club at the moment, the Melbourne sunlight has turned to darkness. The dark clouds raining in, the cold wind picking up. Is that a sign perhaps that the hosts are looking to storm in on an equalizer? They certainly have a chance here.
Yeah, ominous sign of perhaps rain, and well, we hope for our sakes, the goals do rain down as well here at the Calabria club, as we do see Blake Carpenter look to shape in a delivery on a very, very acute angle. He's got the tall timber of Aidan Bryce and Matthew Reid for supports. Here is Carpenter, delivers nearly and might fall kindly for Mel's, who looks to lunge one through, but misses the ball completely, and Stefan Zini will pick it back up now. Here is Dan Edwards, Manos, towards Edwards. Avondale looking to regain their shape. Mel's receives in a tight space towards Matthew Reid. He's got Blake Carpenter to his right, and Krzyzewski tracking very deep. And often you see Krzyzewski just on the halfway line. Reid. Asking plenty of Mel's, but here is Bryce. Zini. Good first touch. Reid once more. Krzyzewski looking to receive in board once more, but here is Emlyn Wellsmore striding forward. Kerr providing plenty of chase, and does so brilliantly in that first instance. Looking to shepherd away, but Kerr wins out. Towards Cuba. Looked to go on one of his trademark runs, and Zini picking up right on that left-hand touchline. Zini striding forward, beating past one, beating past two, goes to ground. And a yellow card as well. I think that might have been Oliver Kubele. And a very, very enormous chance for Avondale. And it's Xian Cuba who's going to stand over this one. We know he can do it from this range. I'm pretty sure he scored from a very similar position against Moreland City earlier in the season. Yeah, this would be quite something. Looks like him and George Mells are going to stand over this one.
You can see Nick Feely just trying to organise his wall. Kerr had chased back, stopping that brief counter-attack for the Cannons. And upon that transition, you noticed Avondale with Zini just break through. So as Xian Cuba will have a chance from the free kick. Neil Simons might have something to disclose soon. Meanwhile, Cuba, we know what he's crafty. Now he's crafted rather from the dead ball. Is in quite the angle here. They hold their breath as Xian Cuba goes over the wall and into the mid-grip of Nick Feely. As the incisive option was forward of Joe Guest. He just couldn't get onto the end of that pass, courtesy of Blake Carpenter coming across with Steph Valentini on the opposite flank. It was Wellsmore trying to feed him through. Crafty. Kulubale. More central. Chance opening up now for Oakleigh. Kuzimovic dancing on the edge of the area. It's going to fall towards Kulubale. Back post. They look towards Astros Akalis. Play continues. Boyce had a dig from distance. They look towards the assistant referee also. Another jeers for a penalty from the Cannons. It was for a brief moment there, you felt as if they might have looked towards a spot. Manos had to palm away that effort from the fullback. Astros Akalis this afternoon has been very busy trying to contain this top end of the table contest. But the Cannons now asking questions. They have a corner. Kuzimovic in the box. As the ball's flung in towards that region. Kerr opting to clear. Rekindled by the Cannons. McGlip drawing players out for acknowledging the wide player of Boyce. Tries to get around Edwards. Keeps possession his. Got into a real compact space. As much as they thought they might have had a corner, Sinclair was ready to take. But the assistant referee had issued a goal kick. Now Carpenter. Getting really stuck in is Kuzimovic on that left side. They ricocheted, which kept Avondale in possession from the throw. Now Cuba, edge of the box, crosses in. Zini's at the back post. He controls, gets his shot away. Kerr also there. Trajewski, huge chance for Avondale, which they take. Christian Trajewski equalises for La Familia. As Sakalis awards the yellow card to a Cannon. And Zoran Markovski's side have done exactly what they would have been ordered to at the half-time break. It's only taken them 7 minutes to draw level. Heaps of composure from the young Trajewski when required. And it's one apiece at Avenger Park.
Well, we called on that man, Christian Trajewski, to get something by way of momentum, and he's done so, finishing with such a plumb into the bottom right corner. That's the way to do it if you're Christian Trajewski. And an opportune time at that for Avondale to equalise with 40 minutes to play in this contest. And now Zini looking towards Aidan Bryce. Here is Matthew Reid. Kerr looks to have that extra spring in his step, and like a gazelle sweeps away from Wellsmore. A sumptuous ball from Mells. Here is Trajewski cutting away onto his left, onto his right. The skills coming out from Trajewski, just playing with so much confidence. And we might have said he would have been close to being back to his best, Adam, but that piece of skill in the area was just something brilliant. Marvellous, in fact.
You mentioned the spring in the step, Neil. Certainly what all the Avondale players have exhibited in the early stages of this second half, courtesy of that goal they just scored. But Trajewski in particular, he's having fun in the engine room. He's been amongst it today, deserving of a goal in his own right. But you notice both Zini and Kerr just coming back to avoid that forward pressure from Oakleigh. And the Cannons currently trying to withstand this, not possession yet, but this definite, what's the word we're looking for, Neil? That momentum. That momentum they've got shifted in their favour.
Yeah, definitely an opportune word to utilise. He seemed pretty happy with that choice of wording. But yes, I think Avondale, when they get one goal, a flurry could open. You never know. Well, they're looking now to Mells as the focal outlet to play those balls in behind to the likes of Kerr, Trajewski, George Ott, of course. This is the way they want to play. When they're free-flowing and utilise the full width of the pitch here at the Calabria Club, they could be well and truly on song. So As for Oakleigh, it's a matter of battering down the hatches and seeing what they can come to in the next 35 minutes or so of regulation time. Here is Emmeline Wellsmore. He's been quite good. Of course, the former Brisbane Roar youth talent as Mells shapes away past Guest. And looks for the teasing ball towards Otts, who's been brought down. No call, though. Trajeski, it's a complete scramble on the edge of the area. Somehow the ball bops up. It falls for George Ott. And it will sit for Stefanzini. Have a moment to breathe as now Valentini picks up. Him and Zini toe in toe in the second half. And now Trajeski with a foot in, and he gives away the foul. And it looks like, I think, Stefan Zini will go into the book.
Bit to unpack there on the edge of the box. Oh, it's just caught in a wrestling match with Jordan Hall. And you could hear those in support for La Familia. I'm sure that would have been picked up on the stream. They were going bananas down there. As Valentini tried to break away, he saw Zini just pull at his arm. He had broken past his former teammate. Eventually earned the foul, sure, but too much to unpack. It's this game fitting of the nature, considering where those sides are both sitting on the ladder. It's finally coming to life, Neil.
Absolutely it is. And I think prior to this contest, we wouldn't have thought that the primary battle would have been Stefan Valentini against Stefan Zini, but this is the beauty of the NPL. So many storylines interwoven within this very clash. And it's sort of had a burgeoning rivalry in recent seasons. And this game is certainly befitting of that. It's just completely opened up compared to the first half. We were talking at halftime how it's been quite a drab game and by complexion, but this second half has completely been turned upside down and has, I wouldn't say subverted our expectations, it's completely reformulated our expectations, Adam Palombi.
Just having a quick glance of the radar. I want to see if that might have any implications on the contest, given how cold and dark it's gotten around Avondale at the moment. Well, Denver and Avondale would say we might be in Ascot Vale, but regardless of where we are, Melbourne, we know how it goes. 4 seasons in one day, and we might get the worst of them shortly. As Oakleigh still continuing with that heavy press, which is alternating at the moment. But Manos is composed. He's happy to work it out of his defensive half. Trajevski back to the keeper. Has a momentary call for calm in a contest that's certainly starting to heat up. Trajevski flicking on to Cuba. As Oakleigh get the rub of the green. McGlip nearly caught on it. Mal's pressing. McGlip withstanding the three-man press. Keeps possession alive for the visitors. Wellsmore couldn't go beyond Carpenter. Sinclair head of Wellsmore with the throw. Sinclair's heavy touch off his chest. But Oakleigh will still have possession inside their attacking half.
Well, to expect what we've seen in the last few games, I mean, both sides have had a knack for scoring goals, and Oakleigh in their last 5 games have seen fixtures with more than 2.5 goals. So, if it follows that same trend, we should get a potential winner this afternoon, but plenty of football to be played, that's to be certain. In fact, the fixtures between these two sides have had more than 2.5 goals, and 8 of the last 9 times in which these sides have met. See Ott striding in. Cuba does spot Kerr, and he has plenty of space to work with. Here is Kerr cutting onto his left. It's Kerr rolled across the face. Cuba. Trajeski, nice little 1-2 touch, slightly away from Sian Cuban. How good was that from Oliver Kubalay? He can even play when he's seated.
Unconventional, but it worked.
Yes. It's almost like if you were in just in bed, sitting up in bed and just playing with the football. And that's exactly what he did there. Just a slight little touch away.
You can see the bench of La Familia warming up just towards the Calabria club. Jackson Courtney Perkins, he feels as if still has some time to implement his imprint on the contest if he is brought on by Zoran Markovski. He had a few chances also last week at Paisley Park in which he couldn't take. So I'm sure he's raring to find his first goal in Avondale colours. I believe 6 for the competition this year, given his stint at the Port Melbourne Sharks. He's hoping to find what could be his 7th, which still has the potential to be a match winner. That's, of course, if he is introduced as Carpenter. Will keep it alive. Momentarily, it was on the fly. Kalubale, happy to just keep possession there. We haven't seen much of this today from the visitors. They tend to give it away as Oss wanted to let it roll for Zini, who was not in any position required.
Yeah, the tempo just slowing down just a little bit. So do see the floodlights on here at Avenger Park. Not often you do see them, of course.
Not at 4:20 in the afternoon, that's for sure.
Well, that's partly owing to the weather more so than actual timing and whatnot. Mel's with a sliding challenge. Not often you see him getting down and dirty. On the deck.
There was that moment which George Mel's provided us. Neil, you're on commentary that night. It'd be rude not to rehash and reminisce on such moments.
Well, if you can provide a moment of magic similar to that, that would be something quite intriguing to see. That might have just hit someone's window.
Nearly.
Nearly. I hope someone wasn't in that room. Would have given them a big old fright, that's for sure.
Front row seats to the action, you could say also.
Certainly a blessing. I'm sure the properties around this area of Parkville are quite expensive when you get to witness Avondale play every 2 weeks, as Valentini looks to let one fly and it nearly finds its way onto the freeway.
That would cause many dramas if you compare it to the F1, that's for sure. That would. Well. So balls flying everywhere at the moment. They want to keep it on the deck for the meantime now, the hosts. As Neil mentions, the tempo has certainly dropped off. But Avondale are happy to dictate as Kerr tries to use his body to absorb the pressure of Wellsmore. Guest calling for time, having laid a pass to Wellsmore. As Hall finds Boyce. Kalubale. Valentini's crafty. Now Boyce couldn't go beyond his counterpart number of Bryce. And via that deflection, La Familia will have possession. There was Bryce, just happy to use his keeper. That wind with a real chill in it as the ball travels along to find Kerr. Now Carpenter trying to find a forward option of Ott. Sliding on the deck was Kalubale to prevent that from occurring. Boyce will have 2 attempts with his head to keep Zini at bay. Settled towards Astros Sakalis. He's been patient today in sounding his whistle. He lets play continue there. Kuzamovic might be in behind. There's a chance for the Cannons. But Manos, his positioning was imperative and his keeping was confident. As Neil, that might be the first droplet of spit coming from the Melbourne skyline. It's a huge chance there for Kuzamovic.
Yeah, and someone that has had very much a stop and start season. Hasn't really been able to break into the starting lineup all too often this campaign, and of course scored that wonder goal against St Albans a few months ago, and just needs to get time and space. He's very much a target man. Has been utilised on the wing a lot this campaign, but for Avondale, obviously, they do have quite a bit of artillery on the bench. Of course, Pat Hogan as well, it must be said. Jackson Courtney Perkins, you'd say Towns. You'd expect those 3 players will come on fairly soon. As for the Cannons, I mean, Munibadis, of course, Max Bissetto, Noah Holmes, Luke Mensick, and also Brendan White. But I don't think they'll be using their goalkeeper. by choice at the very least. But nonetheless, I think for Avondale, it's a very important task for them to ride the waves of momentum. They likely have got the deeper bench, which isn't a luxury that they've had for most of the campaign. Of course, they looked to the 21s for much of the season, the likes of Alessio Centaro, Sebastian Vargas, Pisani, of course, is on the bench today. Massimo D'Argenio, who I think I did see warming up. Maybe he'll return in a few weeks. Of course, has suffered from huge injury struggles after having the fantastic few months at centre-back. Here's Kubalay. Lateral pass for Joe Guest. Kerr providing chase, but neatly done by the Englishman. Of course, him and Connor Hampson were teammates at Curzon Ashton in the UK. Hampson not featuring today. He's been in and out of the team more or less. Injuries and also travelling to the UK. Valentini looks to find Boyce. There's Boyce once more. Towards Valentini, a fantastic delivery, but no one to meet the cross.
Well, Valentini just absolutely bundling the ball, had such dip upon it with its entry, which has gone very, very truly wide of everybody that might have been the intended target. So deep throw in for Avondale. Ott, very deep to try attain possession. Now it's the Cannons finding some comfort. Compact space. Kerr looking to get away. Options ahead of him. He's done very well to try find Zini. Boyce equal to the task with Feely sending forward. Captain steps up and sends it wide for Kilber, who will give chase, but will run out of real estate. As we look towards the bench, that might be all she wrote for George Ott. So he looks to make way in his place with Jackson Courtney Perkins. There's that change we're talking about, Neil. You touched on his versatility, given the amount of positions he can play, and as the main man in attack in that central attacking region, it's certainly what he looks to provide for Avondale in this contest. Of course, there could be a reshuffle. Sure, we'll find out in time as the game progresses. But on comes Courtney Perkins.
Yeah, looks like Kerr, for the moment at least, is moved central, which is to be expected. I mean, Jackson Courtney Perkins did most of his damage on the wings, and he's a player that can ride challenges. A similar player, dare I say, to Kerr in his ability to beat past players technically, but I think Courtney Perkins is more of a direct player by virtue of the way that he likes to attack the space, and is a very important player to come off the bench. I mean, in any other team, he'd be a starting level player, but I do wonder what the change in approach might be. Of course, George Mells and Dan Edwards very much are used to playing with Jackson Courtney Perkins, so that might be a beneficial opportunity. As Brody Boyce strides forward, calls for handball, waved away. Very large contingent of Oakleigh travelling fans pretty upset about that, as you do see Kerr dropping deep to receive.
Joe Guest had literally ran all the way to the official to complain. Meanwhile, at the opposite end, it's Stefan Zini closing in on goal. Too much to unpack, Neil. As Kerr will try to keep it alive, he will get there. The protest perhaps from Oakleigh put on pause as Kerr crosses in. Trajewski was the target. Mells will receive on the edge of the box. As it comes to a calm, Joe Guest had bundled right across to the official to make that claim that there might have been a handball on Aidan Bryce. For those claims to fall on deaf ears, we're unsure on what happened. We'll have to watch it back. Avondale then ventured forward with Zini and had a prime opportunity. Where do you begin? This game has had that today where it's come to life. It's gone from 20 to 120 within a matter of 20 seconds.
Yeah, and I think as you look upon this replay, Adam, it's just one of those games where games can go from just 0 to 150. Not just 100, 150. Add 1.5 onto that. It's It's a magical thing, this fixture, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of that in the remaining 20 minutes of regulation as Courtney Perkins is beaten off the ball. Of course, his brother, Jordan Courtney Perkins, restarting pre-season with Sydney FC, will play against the Oakleigh Cannons in a few weeks. So I'm sure he can provide some scouting tips, perhaps, for Ufuk and the coaching staff there. Of course, formerly of Moreton Bay United, spent some time with Augsburg 2 in Germany's lower tiers. Thiele looking to go long. Mells gets to its first, times the header beautifully. Bryce not so much. And Kingsley Sinclair will pick up. Here is Emlyn Wellsmore. Well, Chris Taylor not looking to his bench, to the surprise of no one. Doesn't like to make substitutions this early. I think he's pretty happy with what he's seen, and can't really blame him since the goal. It's been fairly good. Neat ball in behind for Sinclair, and he's offside.
Well, they do have options. Oakleigh, Max Bisetto, certainly one of them, having joined across from Western United's reserve side. He's quite the young player, the big ceiling ahead of him. And there's been, in a season full of fairy tale moments, that could be yet another one we could witness. That's the beauty of that mid-season transfer window. It allows for that added layer of drama of those moments you mentioned. It all can be provided by new signings. Max Bisetto, if he's introduced, might have that. Definitely on the forecast. Let's see if he's granted the opportunity. As you can see, Oakleigh, they're looking for that bit of spark. They've had moments, but not exactly anything tangible since that penalty. As Wellsmore tries to go beyond the two-man press of both Courtney Perkins and Trajewski. And it is a substitute who's gone into the book. So now Oakleigh with a free kick, as you mentioned, changes. Might be one forthcoming.
Yeah, Yite Towns is going to make his way onto the park, and I would suspect to be likely one of either Christian Trajewski, Sian Kuba, or George Mells. Looking for a like-for-like, it certainly would be Mells, but as Yite Towns is getting ready to come on. He's actually walking back to the substitutes bench. I'm not exactly sure what for. Still asking for a bib, it looks like. And Sarka Sumovic has got that Ronaldo-esque run-up here. Might look to go direct from this position. Wouldn't that be quite interesting? It's a Sarka Sumovic, it's dipping! And Tom Manos makes the save. Well, if you want to make that run-up like Ronaldo, he certainly nearly repeated exploits of the very namesake as Trajewski will drive in transition. Here's Cuba. Kerr all alone. Courtney Perkins asking plenty of it. It's Sian Cuba towards Jackson Courtney Perkins! At home here at Adventure Park! On his first occasion, it's JCP with his 7th of the season. And the most sweetest of all, reunited with his former teammates, Dan Edwards and George Mells. Avondale looking to take the game by the scruff of the neck.
It was written in the stars, wasn't it? We mentioned it before. I might have put a good omen on JCP, as Neil likes to say. But they broke away in numbers, Avondale. There was plenty of them to pick. And the man in the right spot at the right time was Jackson Courtney Perkins. And on a grand occasion like today, delivers and has put his new side in front. Having been a goal down, Zora Markovsky has to certainly be content with what he's seeing.
Change now confirmed. George Mells coming off, Yite Towns coming on, and well, at this point in the game, to have a player as defensively minded as Yite Towns, it's come at the opportune time, hasn't it, Adam? And I'm sure that was planned before, but still, everything is going by the way of the Avengers at the moment.
Well, the Cannons, they certainly have time to get it back on level terms with just over 15 minutes left. Auckland Avondale put it well and truly to bed as Kerr receives the pass from the throat. Couldn't jostle, but Towns in the heart of midfield was deployed as a fullback last week. Finds Kurba, who just couldn't get it onto Zini. Kazamovic will try to chase this long ball over the top. It's gone all the way back to Manos, who sends forwards. Now Towns back in possession. Avondale looking comfortable at the moment. Carpenter wants to take the game on. Towns happy to just keep things on the deck. Price playing a provocative pass, you could say, to his captain, which, following that little defensive intervention between the two, ball's gone out of play. Now substitution forthcoming.
Yeah, so that is Max Bizzetto going to come on. Of course, actually broke through senior football in the NPL. NPL 2 at the time, that's what it was called. As a 16, 17-year-old at Moreland City. Did score 2 goals in that 2021 season, and of course then made the move to Western United's academy, in which he scored 8 goals this season in the VPL 1 competition. Made the A-League bench in December of last year, and was featured in the Australia Cup a few times against NPL opposition across Australia. That's a great ball over the top here for Max Bizzetto, making his introduction, and Blake Carpenter giving him a bit of a head check. Welcome to Adventure Park. As Reed is dispossessed, and Bizzetto will pick up once more. Weaving onto his right. Trajewski with the timely sliding challenge. And here is Yite Towns. And Jordan Hall nearly had his pocket picked by Yite Towns. Courtney Perkins utilising his defensive abilities to full effect, and Kerr shifting it between himself and Sian Cuba. And that will be an Avondale throw. But the shift in intention from Avondale, Adam, has really been truly amazing. I mean, they struggled to even break down the press from Oakleigh in that first half. And might I say that press has actually been subdued a little bit in the second half. And that might be the key factor for them. You can't sustain this for 90 minutes. And especially with a cup game coming up midweek, I think the focus might be towards that a little bit. I'm not sure what you think.
I firmly believe that, well, on their home turf, they've been opportunistic upon their chances. They're rather unfortunate. They were controlling the tempo of the game in the first half as Towns looks towards Zini, who couldn't find Kerr. But you're seeing much more of that from the engine room, those incisive passes. Just finding those competent attackers as Kazamovic goes down. Sakalis, for a moment you thought might have reached to issue a yellow card. But you mentioned moments. That's been much of today's match's complexion. Max Bizzetto is on the pitch. Courtney Perkins has executed that debut, or not in his debut, but has executed that maiden goal for his new club. And upon his debut, Max Bizzetto, you could also make the little just ideology, if you will, that perhaps that same storm might be brewing for the Cannons. We'll keep an eye on that. 1 out of 2 predictions isn't too bad. That's my guess for what could occur. If there's to be an equaliser, how fitting it would be if it is for the number 16 for Oakleigh. But they have a free kick here. Crossed in towards the central region of the box. It wasn't exactly dealt with by either side until it was cleared away. Chance to cross back in. Lumber at the back post. It's a fine delivery. Headed away by Courtney Perkins. Headed back in towards the edge of the box. Curba finding Kerr. Zini was far up the pitch, and as was Courtney Perkins. Ed was trying to pick him out. Courtney Perkins causing issues momentarily. Trajewski pressing. Oakleigh manage. But Trajewski's clutching at his ankle. As Courtney Perkins finds Towns, there's a couple of players on the deck. Towns will finally kick the ball out of play. Trajewski not looking any good at the moment. Nearly might have had a better view.
Yeah, Krzyzewski landed really awkwardly there, and we'd hope for his sake, after coming back from injury and performing so well today, that he's not out for another extended period. I mean, well, this would just be an absolute disaster if he were to suffer yet another injury. But yeah, you do mention Max Bisetto. Wouldn't that be quite the story? And speaking of his former club, Moreland City, quite a good segue, I must say. They, of course, are facing off against Manningham. Manningham taking a 3-2 lead. And also Christos Theodorakopoulos, the ex-Manningham player,
Did you see it?
getting on the score sheet for Moreland. So, and yeah, the change has been confirmed for Avondale. It looks like Pat Hogan's going to come on, and Christian Krzyzewski is in a lot of pain here. Hopefully it's not as severe as his prior injury, but better to be safe than sorry. Let's see if he can walk, hopefully on his 2 feet. But this game's certainly not finished whatsoever by virtue of momentum or complexion.
Just hope for Avondale that Krzyzewski isn't too worse off following that awkward landing. He's played superbly this afternoon. And although we haven't seen much of him this season, he's shown in abundance this afternoon what he's capable of. So our thoughts firmly with him. We hope it's nothing too serious. But that might shift the momentum for the visitors, in which they could use to their benefit.
Yeah.
There's certainly still time.
Look, he's walking, which is positive at least. As he's now clapped off, of course, did score the equalizer. We will see the introduction of Pat Hogan, of course, the man arriving from Melbourne City. Also ex-Melbourne Victory, and did make the bench for City a few seasons back. Was amongst that side that included the likes of Emil Peos, and also, of course, Jordan Hall. So I'm sure he's faced off him on the training ground a fair few times, but we'll see. I think it looks like Kerr is going to move deeper, and Courtney Perkins moved centrally, and Pat Hogan on the left. So Avondale with plenty of versatility in many spaces.
Zini has just been brought out to the right as Kerr flicks on towards Hogan. Boyce just clearing for the meantime with Valentini. He's been rather nullified in this second half. Started lively, but hasn't had much impact. As he flicks on to no avail. Kilber clearing forward. With Oakleigh able to just rekindle yet again in possession. You wonder if they're going to showcase intent. They're certainly not out the contest yet. Time is becoming a factor. Edwards and Valentini look to tango. Over the top was Sinclair to no avail. The question is now, Neil, what exactly can the Cannons do to find that equaliser? They'll look to ask questions, as you can see McGlip just trying to find some involvement. Edwards confronting him. His counterpart number of the newly founded player for Avondale of Hogan also coming across, but his cross into the box was very tame, and now Manos will claim.
Yeah, Pat Hogan, of course, actually made his Avondale debut prior to the window opening, of course, in the Cup against the Oakleigh Cannons. And, certainly a huge welcome to him to NPL football. He struggled a bit physically, but I'm sure he's very much looking to enjoy his time at Adventure Park, as we do see a double nutmeg, a triple nutmeg. Wow! Beautiful.
And a spear.
A bit of Robin Reigns action.
Meanwhile, Oakleigh, Kuzimovic on the edge of the box. Confronted by the captain, Reid. You can see Zini still remains on the deck. As Sakars will acknowledge that. Zini had gone through the gates of 3 Oakleigh Cannon shirts.
Just the disrespect is just... It's not cage game, it's a full-size pitch.
They weren't exactly happy about it, hence that friendly acknowledgement, you could argue, or not so friendly acknowledgement, forcing Zini to the ground, but she still remains upon. Sakars will come across to investigate the welfare of Stefan Zini, who's sitting up, but I feel like that collision with Walsmore was just, from an Oakleigh Cannons standpoint, what was on order, given that Zini become his playground out there for a second.
Yeah, rolling back the years, I mean, Stefan Zini has been at it in the NPL for so long, of course. The former South Melbourne and Melbourne City product, and I'm sure his father, Andrew Zini, of course, the great Andrew Zini, would be very, very pleased to see that. Look, it looks to be all good. I mean, Avondale have utilised all 3 substitution windows already, so...
Zini just been told by the linesman not to enter the field of play yet. His hand firmly upon Zini to not re-enter the action. So currently, Avondale with only 10 players on the park. On cue, Zini re-enters as Hogan caught on possession. Valentini went back towards the Hogan region, which Hogan, well, earns possession back for La Familia. So 4 minutes left to play roughly before stoppage time. Oakleigh haven't exactly showcased too much intent, but there's always late possibilities for drama to ensue. As Hogan gets it out wide to Courtney Perkins. He wants to try and go around his marker. As he does keep it alive, Kerr might have been on the edge of the area. La Familia looking to make it all but conclusive.
Yeah, they are really taking this game in its stride. It's completely different football matches we've seen. I mean, a big contrast to that match a few weeks ago at the home of the Matildas. I mean, Avondale have completely controlled the midfield, not affording any time and space for Ollie Kubele or Cam McGill, or even Joe Guest. Yute Towns will look to go on a run of his own. Yute Towns still going. It's Courtney Perkins, and now Kerr shifting it towards Sian Cuba! He's a magician, this boy. Sian Cuba with a delightful finish. And Avondale will look to control second place on the table. Both Queenslanders showing up the Cannons, and what a way to do it. Wowee, this second half has been all Avondale, and Oakleigh will have their sights firmly on the Doherty Cup midweek.
They were so composed in the box. Courtney Perkins, Kerr, then Cuba went bang. Nothing in which Feely could do about it. A brilliant goal from quite the crafty player. The celebration was everything. Manos had come off his line. Cuba had gone right to the crowd over by the stands. And that's wrapped up the 3 points at Avenger Park. Oakleigh hadn't exactly showcased much intent. The game was still up for dispute, you could argue. As Towns with an unorthodox back pass. There might be a chance for the Cannons, in which they take. Kuzimovic says this game might not exactly be over yet. As I was discussing its conclusivity, it's only the one goal which separates these two sides. Where has that come from?
What is going on here? That was so peculiar. I mean, Ute Towns with a rare mistake. I mean, that is crazy. And just as this game looked like it was all but done and dusted, Oakleigh have said, how are you doing? And picking off that mistake. And Kasumovic with a very diligent finish. It was a well-crafted goal from his perspective. But Oakleigh are still on the charge. It's Valentini now. Towards Kasumovic. Drifting onto his left. Might there be time for Bisetto? And Blake Carpenter steps in and slides on the deck, but still maintains possession. And Oakleigh will be all balls to the wall. And they haven't even utilised any of their other substitutes besides Max Bisetto. I mean, Jackson Courtney Perkins now picking off possession and looking for the cheeky chip. But couldn't quite beat past Nick Feely. And, well, I think hearts are in mouths here. I'm sure there might be a few potential heart attacks around the ground. I mean, what have we just witnessed in these last 5 minutes, Adam?
Well, it's up to level, that's for sure. And Oakleigh had taken that mistake from Ute Towns to find some intent. They might have a fair chunk of stoppage time given. There have been a couple of stoppages. Zini was remaining on the deck for a little bit of time there. So question marks will be asked, but all to be conclusive soon. As they had some intent in that previous attacking venture. Towns receives possession kindly in the heart of midfield, but has it stolen off him. Hogan slides on the deck and loses it eventually, but 6 minutes of added time for the Cannons to find something. They found it from nothing just moments ago, as it all looked wrapped up for Avondale. Edwards in his defensive half forces a clearance, in which will go right back to the Cannons. McGlip does well to get away from Kerr. Valentini on the edge of the box. Options in the centre. 3 Avondale shirts. Not allowing that to happen, as a chance was forthcoming for Kalubale, which the shape might have been there. Just well and truly over the bar. You feel like, Neil, something can happen. It has happened. Many moments have occurred, which are all talking points in their own right. But you feel like there's one moment in which could be all definitive, dare I say, in the favour of the visitors. It's just had that feel this afternoon. Yeah,
Oakleigh have performed diligently when they've been afforded time and space. I mean, it's very hard to come away to Avenger Park and win. Very few sides have done that in recent seasons. I mean, Green Gully were fortunate enough to have secured that earlier this season, but it's just a tall task to accomplish, as we do see Courtney Perkins in space on this left flank. And drive into the mixer. A couple of step overs. It's Courtney Perkins. And claimed by Feely, and on the charge is Max Biseto. Kerr providing chase. Kasumovic. Force left. Looking to put one into the area. It's Kingsley Sinclair and Tom Manos coming up enormous with a fantastic save, and might have kept Avondale within this contest.
They've had to call upon their keeper, and upon the call he answers. Great save, great driving run from Biseto for Oakleigh. To open up the path for Kuzimovic, whose ball in had real intent, but they have a corner now, Neil. Ball flung in, options are plenty, they arrive, and they might have scored. We're all uncertain. They look towards the official. Drama occurring at Avenger Park. You see Reid on the deck. It was a real scramble. Hearts remained in the mouths of everybody. A brief stun into silence, because we're just not sure on what's occurring. Everybody around the stadium felt it also. The protests from the Cannons were loud yet again, but caught in the crossfires was the captain for Avondale. He still remains on the deck, Reid, but there was a genuine chance for the Cannons, and you thought they might have taken it.
Goldmouth scramble like I've seen any. I mean, a few weeks ago when they played Dandenong City, there was also a massive goalmouth scramble. But that is absolute pandemonium. This game has reached its climax in the most outrageous of ways possible. Somehow, some way, in both attacking phases of play, Avondale haven't conceded. And it looks like Matthew Reid, on his return, might be the hero. But Avondale will have to do with 10 men. And it looks like, at least for the last 3 minutes or so of this contest, because time will be added onto the pre-existing stoppage time. We'll just look at that replay of what just occurred. It was the delivery into the area. It was Valentini looked to try and finish, and I think it was a goal line clearance from Jackson Courtney Perkins. And then, of course, Matty Reid was just firmly in the way as well. I think might have been caught, perhaps, but well, there's about 2 minutes or so scheduled on the clock. Can Avondale hold out? And Matty Reid is looking to come back on, and he has done so now.
Avondale have been on both the receiving and the opposing end of late drama throughout the entire course of the season. They try to withstand the Cannons as they cross towards the back post. It's headed away from goal for the meantime. A rare slip as the Cannons try to venture yet again inside the box. Chance still remains somewhat alive. Towns clears. Cuba is in his path. Rekindled by the now captain of Oakleigh, who has a free kick. Cuba standing in front of it. You can see Nick Feely putting out his feelers to get behind this free kick. Oakleigh's cross. Courtney Perkins cleared away. Kerr somehow in possession. Hogan ahead of him. Feely off his line. Will intervene with the pass and send it back forward. Bryce underneath it. Towns flung a foot at it. Courtney Perkins slides. Zini now in possession. Back to Courtney Perkins. Pass might be a bit too heavy. That's a good win there for Avondale. They've kept possession inside their attacking half. 45 seconds left in the contest. Neil mentions those stoppages, but it's right where La Familia wants it.
Absolutely so, and we do speak of late drama. Moreland City have equalised in the 89th minute against Manningham, keeping their season alive somehow. This Saturday afternoon, befitting of the moniker Super Saturday. It's Kerr, who's, I think, stepped out of play. And one last chance for the Oakleigh Cannons. Here is Jordan Hall. Zoran Markovski urging his players to just sit deep. McGilp. Here's Boyce. Down the line for Valentini. The battle with Edwards has been tantalising, and he beats past Dan Edwards. Valentini across the face! And the Oakleigh Cannons, in the last minute, the last kick, have equalised against Avondale. And have all but surely decimated their title charge. They will remain on the same points. You quite can't believe it. The Oakleigh Cannons, with just about the last kick of the game, have drawn proceedings 3-3. And Ute Towns will look to strike one from range. And the final whistle has been blown. 3 points going by the wayside for the Avengers. Can you believe it, Adam Palombi?
Stunned, speechless. I'm not sure exactly how to put my words together. I had mentioned, I'm not sure if I'm Mystic Mac, but I mentioned that that moment was coming. This game was not fitting of going either way. It was deserving of a draw. You could argue Avondale were more, well, fitting on the counter-attack. They were more decisive in front of goal. A costly mistake from Ute Towns just opened the door again for the visitors. And once Valentini got beyond Edwards, what I envisioned had come to life. You couldn't separate these two teams on the table. You could not separate them today. If that's a preview for what's to come in the final series, what a product NPL Victoria really is.
And Stefan Valentini coming back to the Calabria club and causing his old side a few nightmares. A few things in the closet. And Avondale have somehow dropped 2 points here at the Calabria club. I've been Neil Simons. He's been Adam Palombi. We're going to try and catch our breath, and I'm sure you will as well. Thank you, and have a good evening.